The title of our message today, Hello God, Please Leave a Message at the Tone. And like I said before, as Lent is beginning, it's an excellent reminder for us, and I appreciate these liturgical reminders that take our eyes off other things that sometimes so consume us, so that we can concentrate and focus on the important things. And some of you know Kyle Idleman. Our Lenten study is by him, okay? He's done the DVD for us, and he's also a prolific writer and author, and I've read a couple of his books, and I should probably buy a fan t-shirt at this point. And one of his latest offerings is a book called Gods at War, okay? And what this does is it seeks to show people that we are often inundated in this world with false idols and false gods. And they're all attempting to take the number one place in our hearts. And when they do that, there's only room enough in our heart for one thing to be at the top, so they can kind of work to push God out. And Idleman makes some effective arguments for this truth in the book. Idolatry in the modern sense has little or nothing to do with worshiping Greek gods. We remember in the Bible that a lot of time it had to do with worshiping Baal or all these different gods that they had available to them to give worship. Has nothing to do nowadays largely with offering sacrifices. In fact, the book suggests that these days simple things like entertainment and work, good things, if we're not careful, can squeeze God out of our lives. And so God must now fight for the top spot on our list of achievements. No longer is he always the main trophy on our top shelf, right? We remember I was telling the kids about a trophy. But rather, one of many trophies, or sometimes, unfortunately, maybe not there at all. But why are many of us so busy? Why do we sign our kids up for so many activities? Why do some of our hobbies take up just as much time as we spend at church, if not more? According to a study by someone named Tom Rayner, the average United Methodist nationwide considers once a month attendance at church as equal to active membership. Once a month. And by the way, this is not a guilt-inducing statement. It's not a guilt-inducing statement. Sometimes getting to church is hard, especially if you have young kids and you need to get them all ready and get all the showers in. But the reason I mention it is because I feel that there are so many blessings missed if folks are only at church once a month. So many God opportunities can get missed. Sermon messages, personal meetings, ways to connect with other people that aren't happening. And I want to examine what it might look like to kind of sometimes stray away from something as good and as righteous as a God who loves us, because it can start small. Habits we pick up from our parents, coping strategies that we've come up with throughout our lives, easy to do. Little twists and turns of the soul that say, it's okay, everyone, I can do this myself, I don't need help, and I don't need God's help. And after enough running, I think it's safe to say that God can easily move from something we find awe-inspiring to more like maybe a big brother somewhere in the background, and then finally to a paper entity. And it happens to well-meaning people, not bad people. Lukewarm living can sneak in. It's easy. And the confusing thing is that most of these false idols are in essence good things. Working hard, making money, volunteering our time, becoming high achievers. So how do we make the switch between earning money and worshiping money? How does it happen that parents go from desiring the best for their children to desiring their children to be the best? Every time. There's a disconnect somewhere along the way, and I'm reminded of a TV show. I don't know if you guys know this one. There it is. Okay. That look on that little girl, by the way, perfectly encapsulates this TV show. It's called Toddlers and Tiaras. And it's kind of an old show now. I don't even know if it's still on TV. But what happens is it's a beauty pageant, okay? And these pageant moms are so consumed with getting their kids ready and and walking them down the runway and taking them to beauty shows. Nothing wrong with that, nothing immoral, okay? And so they get caught up in this, and the TV show takes them from one toddler to the next toddler in all different age ranges. And it's difficult to say what they are worshiping on that show, but it's not God. All that matters to them, it seems, is to win at all costs, or to be the most beautiful, or to be the prettiest all the time. And there's an interesting part of the book about halfway through where Idleman writes, how many times have we been so distracted that we've missed a divine moment? How many things does God long to say to us, but he keeps getting our voicemail because we are too busy to pick up? I think about it in a metaphorical sense, such as God calling first my home phone, then my cell phone. Maybe he even stops by the house to see if I'm there, only to find that I'm out traveling or working or running around or whatever. Sorry, God, just leave me a message, right? I'm busy doing stuff. And like most people, like many people, I really do adore the stuff that I do. Hobbies are fun. Work can be satisfying. Watching my kids or my friends succeed at sports are all good things. I promise I'll get back to God if he just leaves me a message. After all, can't he see that I'm busy? So it's of equal interest to me how it's often something that can be good of its own accord, but once that thing, whatever it is moved to the center of our world, everything else suffers. Let's talk about some scriptures. This is from Deuteronomy. I'm going back a ways. It says, but if your heart turns away and you are not obedient, and if you are drawn away to bow down to other gods and worship them, I declare to you this day that you will certainly be destroyed. You will not live long in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. Likewise, Ezekiel chapter 14, verses 3 to 4 says, Son of man, these men have set up idols in their hearts and put wicked stumbling blocks before their faces. Should I let them inquire of me at all? Therefore speak to them and tell them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. When any of the Israelites set up idols in their hearts and put a wicked stumbling block before their faces, and then go to a prophet, I, the Lord, will answer them myself, keeping with their great idolatry. Finally, jumping ahead to the New Testament, Philippians 3:19. Their destiny is their destruction, their God is their stomach, and the glory is in their shame. Their mind is set on earthly things. What if none of us are actually busy? We are just distracted. Is it possible to be spiritually distracted? Examples may be people who seek comfort through food, who hold good health as the highest priority in their lives. How about the diet and fitness craze, right? By the way, do you know what the best-selling book on the market is other than the Bible? Cookbooks, diet books, okay? How to look good, how to be in shape, how to look like you're in shape, how to look like that one time back a long time ago when you wanted to be in shape but you weren't. Okay? All these books are out there floating around, and people kind of get obsessed with, when they go on these diets or they go to CrossFit or they do these exercise regimens. All of that is good, by the way. It's good to eat healthy. Unless and until it becomes the most important thing in your life, right? Then there can be problems. And the symptoms are often similar. Whatever we idolize will isolate us unless that something is God. But it usually isn't God that we worship. It's often stuff, things, activities, even sometimes family, which sounds strange. We're supposed to love our family. We're supposed to do things with them, unless or until it becomes the number one and only thing in our hearts. And we may get worse when we try to self-diagnose. We're used to going to a medical doctor and telling the nurse or maybe the doctor what our physical symptoms are. And we get medication for pain to help us sleep at night maybe, but the cause of the illness runs deeper. But doctor, why can't I sleep at night? I don't just want a pill. We need to keep going. We need to find the reason. We want to treat the symptoms caused by false worship instead of looking further upstream to find out why we have those symptoms in the first place. Maybe alcoholism is ruining someone's life, and I see this actually quite a bit. And the answer is to stop drinking, of course. But why are they drinking so much in the first place? Are we brave enough to look upstream? The symptoms are often bad enough. We don't want to keep looking. And worse yet, we can have symptoms stemming from other symptoms. Maybe we can't sleep at night, so we take a sleeping pill, then the sleeping pill has a side effect. We take another pill for that. 5 years later, we don't feel good, and we have no idea why. Many people will never read a book about idolatry because they don't have time. And if we do read it, will we even be clear-headed enough to self-diagnose? Or is it always the other person that has the problem? I suspect the answer is no, it's not always the other person. And so it occurs to me that there really is no place to hide. At some point, misdirected worship begins to isolate us and demand more and more of our time. And whatever that thing may be, we will switch gears and look for a new idol, switching one for another. Some of you will recognize this. In the Bible, what does this represent? You remember the story? Yep. So Moses goes up the mountain to speak with God. The Israelites are waiting down below. Moses puts his brother Aaron in charge. I imagine the conversation goes something like this. Aaron, don't build any false idols, I'll be right back. Moses goes up the mountain. The Israelites become impatient. They go to Aaron, they say, build us an idol. So Aaron says, all right, melt down your jewelry and we'll build a golden calf. Moses can't even be gone for a bit of time without people constructing idols. Okay, so the golden calf today symbolizes, means for us, fill in the blank with whatever is in that first place in our heart. And so the cycle continues. If we are lucky, God will have pity on us and take away that false love in order to show us our own soul. Is self-actualization easy or difficult? It's tough. It's tough. When you come face to face with what is in the first position in your heart, if that thing is not God, that's a tough realization. Or He may change our financial situation on purpose. Or maybe He alters our health in order for us to look further upstream. Maybe He tried sticky notes first and we didn't respond. Maybe He called our home phone and we didn't pick up. Maybe He stopped by the house and we didn't let Him in. Now it's a megaphone. We are content pursuing symptom treatment oftentimes. It's easier, it's less embarrassing. But as I preach this, I'm smiling literally because I think it may be easy for someone listening to this to feel guilty. Idolatry preaches really well. Okay? You go on for 2 days about idolatry. So when we think of our own proverbial closet full of idols, it may be easy for us to just simply feel guilty. And I smile because I felt that way as well as I'm reading and writing this sermon. And the reason I'm still smiling is because when I stop to consider all of this, I remember that I am a follower of Christ. I am literally soaked in grace. And that is good news. For every nuance I may screw up, and there's a lot of them, God can, will, and does restore me. We are not in charge. God is. We don't have to be perfect. I hope that's a relief for you to hear. And for the Christian, Jesus has taken our imperfections such that we will come out the other end victorious. It's just that we need to answer our voicemail sometimes a little more often. Or at least leave the door unlocked in case God decides to stop by. My grandmother, we used to call her Grandma Kay. Her name was Kathleen. She's no longer with us. But friends, there were no idols on Grandma Kay's watch. Okay? everything she looked at was viewed through the lens of Jesus. Everything she talked about, God came up in her casual conversation. If you were to go to visit her at her little apartment, she would have a crucifix up on the wall. There would be a portrait of Jesus in the other room. She would pray for people. It was just on and on and on. There was no mistaking who was the first place in her heart. And, there are folks in this church today that are like that as well. That comforts me. Okay? I love to see that. It's a good reminder. And when we're talking about idolatry and all the distractions that can happen with our life, I try to remember and emulate those two things, that Jesus is covering us in grace and that he has made himself known such to people like Grandma Kay that folks looking from the outside in will see his light. Will you pray with me? God, we love you. So many distractions today, so many things that can often take our mind and our focus off of you. So many trophies that we often try to fit on the top shelf. And we remember today to put those other things aside. It's okay to be proud of accomplishments and proud of hard work, but we ask that you are the first place in our life. And we humbly request, Lord, that if you are not, that you might show us, such that we may change. And we pray these things in your Son's name. Amen.